is throughout your playing experience, both in North America and in Europe, could you name a few names that mentored you or really stuck out with you with the way they practiced, the way they played or prepared, and just explain a little bit why you chose them?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, like, when I was in St. John's, a guy like Jason Jaffrey, like him just being a professional every day, and a guy like Andrew Gordon, like these guys, just the way they practiced was, it, when I looked at players that were like physical play, I always looked at like a player that was like a hard player to play against as a guy that like finished every check and like blew you up with like a big hit, as opposed to guys that just had heavy sticks every single in every battle, moved their feet all the time, were always open, just did everything the same. Like these guys just did drills at the highest of speeds, every single drill, whether it was a shooting drill, whether it was, a battle drill, like everything was just exactly the same. And I took a lot from those guys. A guy like Mike Stewart, my first year in Idaho, my first year pro, Mark Stewart and Colin Stewart's older brother. I think he played a little bit for the Blues, played at Colorado College. He was a guy he just was so consistent. But it was the way he did everything when he showed up to practice. Like this guy was doing the crossword puzzle at the exact same time of the morning. He had his coffee, he was doing his stretches, he did this. Just everything he did was so consistent. And that's the way his game was. It was never any highs, never any lows. It was just business as usual. And, with him, it was just the same exact way. Even a goalie like Jeff Lurg, guys that like, they might not like cracked like top teams, but this guy like had no business playing professional hockey or winning a college national championship. Like he's 5'6", he's got asthma, like real bad. Like he's got like a breathing tube, like before, like oxygen, like before he plays, just like not like an unbelievable athlete at all, but the amount of work that this guy put into the game. And I always looked at it like he was the guy, he was always good, like playing midget AAA, because I didn't know anyone before I went to Dallas. But then you got these honey baked teams and Lurgs and like Chad Clare, Jeff Pro, like guys like that, like growing up who were like these big, to me, like these Midwestern guys that were Michigan that were like, national team players and did this. And you never realize like how hard they just every single day bringing consistent effort. And when you look at the guy, you're like, this guy has no business doing any of this.
Yeah.
And it was just sheer, that turned into talent. He had a talent for working. That's really what his talent was. So, separated, a guy, but like guys like that players would, or that people would know more, like, a guy like Adam Lowry or Ben Sherratt. Like these guys were, they were just so consistent in terms of just effort all the time. And I think that's the biggest thing with my game is that if you ask any player, you probably, that play against me, you just know that my effort and my battle level is going to be consistent every single time. And I think that's my greatest strength. And that's what allowed me, to still be playing or to be playing where I was or where I am. Because again, like, not the biggest guy, not from a hockey background. I don't have the best hands. I'm a pretty good skater. But like so many guys that have more skill, in terms of like the natural, of like the stick handling and that sense that I have at least. And I knew that one thing that I could control every single time was battle level. And competitiveness. And, I think I learned a lot from those guys in doing that.
When did you think you acquired the competitiveness? How young were you? Like, when do you think that really, for me, I remember hitting college was really when they demanded and mostly expected that from you. Junior hockey, of course, you had to be competitive to be good and great, but college was right, NCAA was right when it hit. It's like, you got to be competing. Nowadays, what I see from coaching wise, it's hitting definitely more around the junior age a little bit more. I still see academy midget level players where, they just have to bring hard work. It's not really compete. And,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And you see a lot of guys that say they're the hardest working, you've always played with that guy that like, he goes so hard in the gym and he said, I'm the hardest working guy. It's like, well, to be realistic, like we get paid to be the hardest working guy from 7:00 at night until 10:00 at night. So yes, you can be the hardest working guy in the gym, but that doesn't mean anything if there's a puck here and you're not willing to do whatever it takes to beat the other guy wearing the dark jersey or the light jersey to that puck or whatever. So I think that came with me as a young age, because when I moved to Sun Valley, like I always played up, like all my buddies that the team I played on was always like, a year or two older than me. And I was the smallest guy by far. And these were just my best buddies. I was trying to do whatever it took to be with these guys. And same thing, I grew up with two older sisters. Like I was like a punk rock kid, like I was always getting like, shit from my sister's boy around. Then you had to be tough. It was like, that's just the way it was. And I think that kind of just has always, that part at least has been with me, at least at like, hey, when we're playing, like, I didn't care who we were playing against. I didn't care if I was practicing with a team that was like, I remember, I'm going to camp in St. John's, and I had to be, and I was like with my wife's family in New York. I always went to New York for like a couple weeks before the season started, and I always hated it. I'm like, Elliot, I can't go to New York and see your family like 2 weeks before the season starts, because that's like when I have to be in like my best shape and stuff and skate. So I got a buddy who's coaching a team in Connecticut, a junior team in Connecticut. And I would drive like an hour up the Throgs Neck Bridge there to go to like the Sportsplex in Connecticut to go practice with the Connecticut, what do they call it? Connecticut. What's that?
White Nighthawks or the Wolfpack?
It was the Yankees. Like, this would be like 2013 or I think it was Yankees or Rangers. It was like they just got a team in the E, right? Right. They had like just got a team in the E, and actually, I forget if it was a Martolo brother that was the head coach, and I think it was the one that was. Maybe it was CJ. It was CJ Martolo. He used to be assistant at Yale, and he was the head coach of this team. So I was like skating with them. I knew him from a long time, from Tim Taylor. It was actually Tim Taylor's son, who's one of my good buddies, and he was assistant coach of this team. And I'm like getting ready for camp. These kids are junior age kids, so they're 18 to 20, and we're like doing all these drills. And I'm just like, I'm an idiot. I'm like blocking every shot and doing this stuff. And these guys, and like finishing check. And these guys are like looking at me like I'm an absolute psycho. Like what is this guy doing? And I'm just looking at them going like, what are you guys not doing? Like you guys are all like wanting to play Division I college, and you're practicing out here. Like you don't have to do anything during the day. All you have is like 2 hours to go hard and do everything. Like, what are you guys not doing? It's just one of those things. It's like, if you're going to be out here, you might as well give it everything you have, and they probably looked at me like I was the biggest hardo, I was like Rudy, what I mean? But it's like, I didn't give a shit. Like, I don't care. Like I'll be playing, hopefully I'll be playing, whatever. And I'm still playing 7 years later. And half these kids are bigger than me and had probably more skill at that age. But I'm looking at them like, what are you guys doing? Not doing that. Like I thought that was just something that like you could do every time. It didn't matter. Like sometimes you have your hands, sometimes you don't. But like you could always go as hard as you could.
Yeah, no, making it, playing at those high levels, whether it was the East Coast AHL training camp, AHL games, NHL training camp, or even overseas, you come across so many of these guys that you're like, wow, to have the mentality from either not even having, no off switch. It's just hard every time, and you're like, wow, that's why that guy is here, and that's why he's so good, and playing for
Yeah.
so long. We're just special mentalities. Just to compete, there is no second gear. It's just zero or top gear. That's all it is.
Yeah. And one last thing I forgot, this, like, I'm thinking now, like, I'm looking back, I'm like having flashbacks. When I went to Dallas and I was playing midgets, Brendan Morrow was like a young guy. I think he was maybe like, 22, 23. And apparently he was holding out on a contract. So all the team was up in Vail doing training camp, and Brendan Morrow came out with us in practice. And Brendan Morrow. And this guy's skill, like, none of his skill, like, impressed me. I'm like, wait, what? This is Brendan, right? I'm like, this is Brendan Morrow. But the way he did everything was so hard. And on the walls, his battle level, his compete. If you were to just see this guy in men's league, you wouldn't even pick him first. You know what I mean? Like with a bunch of other guys, because you'd see other guys that looked fancier, that looked like they had more skill. But he just did things like, it was just levels. You see that, like, the way the guy puts on the gear and stuff, like, good style doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was the first time that I'm like, oh wow, this guy, like, looks awful. Like everything he's doing, he's got socks hanging over the backs of his skates, like way down low, and like just everything about him looked like just Bender. And he just did everything right, nothing flashy, just like had consistent effort level. And you see like why he went so far. And I think growing up, I think that's where I first found out that, like, okay, just because you look like an ugly hockey player doesn't mean you're an ugly hockey player.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, even many players have stuck out like that as well, where obviously when you're growing up, you're, oh, that guy can shoot the puck like that or between his legs and it's flash. You're like, wow, I wish I could do that, because we think that we can't do it without practice. But as you practice, you get it. And playing with a lot of these older guys, they just, with their work ethic and how far they're willing to go, and how deep, that's why they dominate at their levels. Like these guys, as much as we say that, but they don't have skill, they got good skills still.
Yeah, right.
But that's not what stuck out to us at all. We're like, whoa, like we thought they would be way better than this, but they will go get that puck.
Right.
100 times out of 100, not even 99 out of 100. Yeah. They would get that puck over anyone else.
And when we mean they have skill, it's like they're not looping toe drags around guys. Their skill is catching every puck.
Yeah.
Their skill is just passing on the tape. Their skill is collecting pucks off the wall. Their skill isn't move skill, flashy skill, beating somebody one-on-one through their legs. Their skill is grinding someone out, but making every single play you're supposed to make.
Thanks a lot for coming on today with us, and hope we can have you back again. It's been very educational, and hopefully the followers have enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate it. And like, have a 10 go on, rants like this, but I have so much fun talking about, different things. So like I said, I really appreciate it. And, I'm going to keep following everything you're doing.